As the Endeavor's subspace rift closed behind them, Captain Ava surveyed the unfamiliar stars on the bridge's view screen. After over 3 centuries of isolation on the remote colony world of Tansara, her people were finally returning to the galactic stage. A dream that had sustained them through generations of hardship. Ava turned to her first officer, the grizzled veteran Nikolai Petrov, who shared her mixture of excitement and trepidation. "Open a channel to the nearest outpost," she commanded. "It's time to announce our presence and petition for reintegration into the Galactic Council." Petrov's fingers danced across the console, but his brow furrowed with concern. "Captain, I'm not detecting any response to our hails. Nothing but static on all standard frequencies." Ava's jaw tightened. "Try expanding the broadcast spectrum. Modulate the carrier wave. Something must be wrong if we can't raise even a simple monitoring station." As minutes ticked by with no response, unease settled over the bridge crew. The Endeavor had been meticulously maintained over the centuries, its advanced sublight engines and communication systems in perfect working order. For there to be no sign of life or activity in this sector was deeply unsettling. "Scanners are picking up no ships, no orbital platforms, not even basic navigational beacons," Petrov reported. "The entire area is devoid of activity. It's as if the region has been abandoned," Ava finished, her mind racing. The implications were dire. Had some catastrophic event occurred in their absence? Or was this deliberate isolation a calculated attempt to bar humanity's return? "Bring the engines to full readiness," she ordered. "And ready the defense systems, just in case. I have a bad feeling about this." The crew sprang into action, fingers flying over the controls as the Endeavor's powerful reactor hummed to life. Ava felt a familiar tension in the pit of her stomach, the sensation she'd experienced countless times during their colony's frequent clashes with the harsh environment of Tansara. It was the feeling that danger loomed, and only her steady hand and quick thinking would see them through. In the distance, a faint flicker of light caught her eye. Ava leaned forward, focusing the view screen's magnification. "There, on the edge of the system. What is that?" Petrov scanned the anomaly, his brow furrowing deeper. "It appears to be some kind of subspace distortion, like a cloaked vessel, but the signature is unfamiliar. Unknown configuration, unknown power source." Ava's grip tightened on the arm of her command chair. "Tactical. Ready the main batteries. Helmsman, bring us about and prepare to engage. If those are hostile forces, we'll need to be ready." The Endeavor's mighty thrusters roared to life, the ship gracefully pivoting to face the mysterious distortion. Ava's eyes narrowed, her jaw set with determination. After centuries of exile, her people had returned to reclaim their place among the stars. She would be damned if she let anything, or anyone, stand in their way. Within the grand chamber of the Galactic Council, the ruling elite were in a state of panic. The sudden, unexpected return of the human vessel Endeavor had caught them completely off guard, shattering the fragile peace they had labored to maintain for centuries. Kalvosh, the grizzled Hyrethi ambassador, pounded his fist on the podium. "This is an outrage. Those primitives should have remained exiled on their backwater colony, forgotten by the galaxy. Their reappearance threatens to unravel everything we've built." Whispers of agreement rippled through the chamber, but Chancellor Tavares raised a hand, silencing the din. "Calm yourselves, esteemed colleagues. While the humans' return is certainly unsettling, we must consider our options carefully. Rash actions could lead to unforeseen consequences." The aged Tavares fixed the assembly with a piercing gaze. "We cannot simply eliminate them as a threat. Their vessel, though ancient, is still capable of interstellar travel. If we destroy it, the shockwaves could destabilize the entire sector. And should other human colonies learn of their fate, it may provoke retaliation from those we had hoped were lost to us forever." Kalvosh scoffed. "Then what do you propose, Chancellor?" "That we welcome these upstarts with open arms. Invite them to join our hallowed council." Preposterous. They are a relic of a bygone era, unfit to stand among us. Tavares clasped his hands, considering his words carefully. I suggest we dispatch a fleet to escort the human vessel to a remote outpost. There we can monitor them, contain the threat, and determine how best to proceed. With luck, they will simply fade back into obscurity, their return to the galactic stage, but a brief, inconsequential footnote. The chamber erupted into heated debate, ambassadors from a dozen worlds arguing vehemently for and against the Chancellor's proposal. Tavares weathered the storm, his expression impassive, until finally raising a hand for silence. It is settled then. I will authorize the deployment of the 7th Rapid Deployment Fleet to intercept the human vessel and secure its relocation. Let us hope this endeavor proves to be more a curiosity than a true threat to our hard-won stability. As the ambassadors filed out of the chamber, Tavares lingered, his brow furrowed with unease. The name Endeavor tugged at a distant memory, a faint echo of a time long past. Had the exiled humans truly returned with nothing more than the technological relics of their bygone era? Or was there something more, something the Council had foolishly overlooked? Shaking his head, the Chancellor turned and departed, unaware of the monumental error in judgment that was about to unfold. Ava's fingers gripped the arms of her command chair as she stared intently at the view screen. The mysterious subspace distortion had resolved into the unmistakable outline of a massive warship, its jagged silhouette and angular hull architecture unlike anything she had ever seen. Signature match confirmed, Petrov reported, his voice laced with tension. It's a Hyrathi Centurion-class heavy cruiser, one of the Galactic Council's most advanced warships. Ava's jaw tightened. Hail them, Petrov. Let's see if we can defuse this situation before it escalates. The communications officer worked rapidly, but after several attempts, he shook his head. No response, Captain. They're not even acknowledging our signals. A cold chill ran down Ava's spine. If the Hyrathi were refusing to communicate, it could only mean one thing. They were preparing for battle. All hands to battle stations, she commanded, her voice ringing with authority. Helm, bring us to full impulse, and plot an evasive course. Weapons, ready the main cannons and plasma batteries. We need to be ready for anything. The Endeavor surged forward, its powerful thrusters propelling the ship away from the looming Hyrathi cruiser. Ava's mind raced, weighing their options. They could try to outrun the enemy ship, but their sublight engines were no match for the Centurion's superior speed and maneuverability. A direct confrontation seemed suicidal, given the overwhelming firepower the Hyrathi vessel could bring to bear. Captain, we're being hailed, Petrov announced, a hint of relief in his voice. It's an automated message, broadcasting on all channels. Ava nodded. Put it through, Lieutenant. The bridge speakers crackled to life, and a stern, authoritative voice echoed through the chamber. Attention, human vessel. This is Chancellor Tavares of the Galactic Council. By order of the Council, you are to surrender your ship and crew immediately. Any resistance will be met with lethal force. Ava's eyes widened, and she exchanged a stunned glance with Petrov. The Galactic Council. But how can this be? We've come to petition for reintegration, not to be met with threats of annihilation. Petrov's expression darkened. It seems the Council has other plans for us, Captain. They clearly view our return as a threat, not an opportunity. Ava's fingers drummed the armrest as she considered their options. Hail them back, Petrov. Let's see if we can reason with these Council members. Perhaps there's still a chance to resolve this peacefully. The first officer shook his head grimly. Captain, they've already made their position clear. I don't think they're interested in negotiating. Ava's eyes narrowed. Then we have no choice. Arm all weapon systems and prepare for evasive maneuvers. If the Council wants a fight, we'll give them one they won't soon forget. Ava's mind raced as she surveyed the bridge, her crew standing at their stations with a mixture of fear and resolute determination. They had survived countless challenges on their remote colony world, overcoming seemingly insurmountable odds through ingenuity and sheer force of will. But now, faced with the overwhelming firepower of a HFY Centurion-class cruiser, their very survival hung in the balance. "Captain, the HFY vessel is powering up its main weapons," Petrov reported, his voice tense. "They're locking targeting scanners on us." Ava gripped the arms of her chair, her knuckles turning white. "Evasive maneuvers, full impulse. Deploy the countermeasure pods and charge the point defense lasers." The Endeavour surged forward, its powerful engines straining against the pull of the HFY ship's gravity well. Missile trails lanced out from the enemy vessel, but the Endeavour's defensive systems swiftly intercepted them, detonating the warheads in brilliant flashes. "We can't outrun them for long, Captain," Petrov warned. "Their engines are faster, and they're closing the distance rapidly." Ava's jaw tightened. "Then we'll have to give them a taste of our true capabilities." She turned to the weapons officer, a young ensign named Gia. "Gia, target their engines and weapon systems. Let's see if we can cripple that cruiser before it has a chance to finish us off." Gia's fingers danced across her console, her expression one of grim determination. "Aye, Captain." Powering up the main particle beam cannons. Locking on. Firing. A blinding bolt of energy lanced out from the Endeavour's bow, slamming into the HFY vessel's flank. The cruiser's shields flared brightly, but they were unable to withstand the onslaught. Armor plating peeled away, and secondary explosions rocked the ship's hull. Petrov's eyes widened. Direct hit. Their engines are fluctuating. They're losing power and starting to drift. Ava allowed herself a small, triumphant smile. "Excellent work, Gia. Now finish them off with the plasma torpedoes. I want that cruiser disabled and unable to pursue us." But as the Endeavour's weapons recharge, Ava's expression darkened. She knew that this display of power had likely shattered any remaining illusions the Galactic Council held about the capabilities of the exiled humans. The Council would now see them as a true threat, one that needed to be eliminated at all costs. "Secure all systems and prepare to jump to warp," Ava ordered. "We need to put as much distance between us and that cruiser as possible before the rest of the Council's fleet arrives." Petrov turned to her, his brow furrowed with concern. "Where will we go, Captain? We can't simply flee back to Tansara. The Council will hunt us down, and our colony won't be able to withstand their assault." Ava's eyes narrowed. "Then we'll have to find a new refuge, somewhere the Council cannot reach us, somewhere we can regroup and prepare for what's to come." She paused, her gaze sweeping across the bridge. "Because if the Galactic Council sees us as enemies, then we'll have no choice but to become their adversaries. The fate of our people depends on it." Chancellor Tavares paced the length of the Council chamber, his brow furrowed with a mixture of anger and unease. The reports from the 7th Fleet had been nothing short of catastrophic. The HFY Centurion-class cruiser, one of the most advanced warships in the Council's arsenal, had been crippled by the human vessel's devastating firepower. "Unacceptable," Tavares muttered under his breath, his fists clenching. "How could a mere colony ship, lost to us for centuries, possess such formidable technology?" The other ambassadors watched in stunned silence as the Chancellor addressed the assembly. "The humans have proven to be a far greater threat than we anticipated. Their vessel's capabilities exceed even our most advanced ships. We can no longer afford to underestimate them." Kalvosh, the HFY representative, rose from his seat, his face flushed with rage. "Then we must destroy them, Chancellor. Dispatch the full might of the Galactic Fleet to annihilate this endeavor and ensure the humans never threaten us again." Tavares raised a hand, silencing the HFY ambassador. "No, Kalvosh. We cannot risk open conflict with these exiles. Their ship may be powerful, but the rest of their kind are still isolated on their colony world. If we act rashly, we risk provoking a wider war that could destabilize the entire sector." The Chancellor turned to face the assembly, his expression grim. "We must devise a more calculated approach, one that neutralizes the human vessel without triggering a catastrophic confrontation. "And what do you propose, Chancellor?" asked the Andari delegate, her voice laced with skepticism. "That we invite them to join the council, like some wayward children. They have already demonstrated their hostility. We cannot simply trust them." Tavares nodded, acknowledging the valid concern. "No, we cannot trust them. But neither can we afford to destroy them outright. We must find a way to contain the threat they pose, while also denying them the opportunity to disrupt the delicate balance we have maintained for generations." The Chancellor's gaze swept across the assembled ambassadors. "I will authorize the deployment of a substantial fleet to intercept the human vessel. They are to be escorted to a remote outpost, where they will be isolated and monitored. There they will pose no further threat to the Council's sovereignty." Calavosh opened his mouth to object, but Tavares raised a hand, silencing him. "This is not up for debate, Calavosh. The decision is made. Prepare the fleet at once. I want the humans neutralized before they can escape our grasp." As the ambassadors filed out of the chamber, Tavares turned to gaze out the window, his expression troubled. The humans had proven to be far more capable than the Council had ever imagined, and if they managed to breach the isolation of the remote outpost, the consequences could be catastrophic. "We cannot afford to underestimate them again," Tavares murmured, his fingers drumming anxiously on the windowsill. "The fate of the entire galaxy may rest on our handling of this human problem." Ava gripped the arms of her command chair as the Endeavor streaked through the void, the stars blurring into ribbons of light. Behind them, she could see the growing silhouettes of the Galactic Council's fleet, a formidable armada of warships closing in fast. "ETA to the rendezvous point, Lieutenant?" she asked, her voice calm and controlled, belying the turmoil within. "2 minutes, Captain," Petrov replied, his eyes fixed on the navigational display. "The Council fleet is maintaining pursuit, but we're still managing to stay ahead of them." Ava nodded, her mind racing. The remote outpost the Council had designated as their escort destination was little more than a glorified prison, a way to isolate the Endeavor and its crew indefinitely. She knew they would never willingly submit to such a fate. "All hands, prepare for battle stations," she announced over the ship's intercom. "We're about to have company, and I suspect they won't be offering a warm welcome." The bridge crews sprang into action, fingers dancing over consoles as they armed the Endeavor's formidable defenses. Ava watched with a mixture of trepidation and pride as her people responded with professionalism and determination. "Sir, we're being hailed by the Council fleet," Petrov reported. "Channel open." The view screen flickered to life, revealing the stern visage of a High-Rethi admiral. "Human vessel, this is Admiral Calavosh of the Galactic Council. You will surrender immediately and comply with our orders to proceed to the designated outpost. Any resistance will be met with lethal force." Ava's jaw tightened. "Admiral Calavosh, I'm afraid I cannot comply with your demands. The Endeavor and its crew have come to petition for reintegration into the Galactic Council, not to be imprisoned on some remote outpost." Calavosh's eyes narrowed. "Then you leave us no choice. Prepare to be boarded and subdued. The Galactic Council will not tolerate your insolence." As the transmission ended, Petrov turned to Ava, his expression grim. "Captain, their fleet is powering up weapons. They're locking targeting scanners on us." Ava took a deep breath, her fingers drumming the armrest of her chair. "Then it seems we have no choice but to fight. Lieutenant Gia, target the lead ships and prepare to fire the main particle beam cannons. Let's show the Galactic Council the true might of the Endeavor." Gia's fingers danced across her console, her eyes narrowed with determination. "Aye, Captain." Weapons charged and locked on. Firing in 3, 2, 1. A blinding bolt of energy lanced out from the Endeavor's forward battery, slamming into the shields of the Lid High-Rethi cruiser. The massive warship shuddered under the impact, its shields flickering and collapsing as secondary explosions rocked its hull. "Direct hit," Gia exclaimed. "The cruiser's engines are disabled, and it's starting to drift." Ava allowed herself a grim smile. "Excellent work, Lieutenant. Now, target the other ships and give them a taste of our firepower. We need to carve a path through this blockade if we're going to escape. As the Endeavour unleashed a barrage of devastating energy beams and plasma torpedoes, the Council fleet reeled, their confidence shattered by the human vessel's superior technology. Iva watched with a mixture of awe and trepidation, realizing that the Galactic Council had gravely underestimated the exiled humans, a mistake that would soon cost them dearly. The Galactic Council chamber was in a state of stunned silence as the reports from the Seventh Fleet filtered in. Admiral Kelvosh, his face etched with a mixture of disbelief and fury, paced the floor, his fists clenched tightly. "Impossible," the High-Rethi growled, his voice low and menacing. That antiquated human vessel should not have been able to withstand the full might of our fleet. Yet it not only survived, but inflicted catastrophic damage to our ships. Chancellor Tavares raised a hand, silencing the enraged ambassador. "Calm yourself, Kelvosh. This is a grave situation, but panic will only make it worse. We must assess the damage and determine our next course of action." The aged chancellor turned to face the assembled ambassadors, his expression grave. "The human vessel, called the Endeavour, has proven to be far more capable than we anticipated. Their weapons systems have rendered our fleet crippled and demoralized. We can no longer afford to underestimate them." Kelvosh opened his mouth to protest, but Tavares raised a hand, silencing him. "It is clear that the exiled humans have developed advanced technologies during their long isolation, technologies that pose a direct threat to the stability of the Galactic Council." The Andari delegate, her eyes narrowed, leaned forward. "Then what do you propose, Chancellor? Surely you cannot be suggesting that we welcome these humans into the Council after they have so brazenly defied our authority." Tavares nodded gravely. "That is precisely what I am proposing, Delegate Astra. We have no choice but to grant the humans a seat at the Council, and to do so on terms that are favorable to them." Kelvosh's face contorted with rage. "Favorable terms. They have attacked our ships, threatened our very way of life. They deserve nothing but annihilation. And yet we cannot afford to destroy them," Tavares countered, his voice firm. "The human vessel has demonstrated capabilities that could destabilize the entire galactic order. If we eliminate them, their colony may very well retaliate, plunging us into a devastating conflict that none of us can win." The Chancellor turned to face the assembly, his gaze sweeping across the silent ambassadors. "No, we must find a way to integrate the humans into the Galactic Council, to harness their technological prowess for the betterment of all. Only then can we ensure the continued stability and prosperity of our civilization." Kelvosh opened his mouth to object, but Tavares raised a hand, silencing him once more. "This decision is final, Ambassador. Prepare a diplomatic envoy to rendezvous with the Endeavour and initiate negotiations. We must convince them to join us, and quickly, before they decide to become our adversaries for good." As the ambassadors filed out of the chamber, Tavares lingered, his expression troubled. The return of the exiled humans had shaken the very foundations of the Galactic Council. Now they had no choice but to embrace them, lest they risk everything they had built over the centuries. "The fate of our civilization may very well rest on the outcome of these negotiations," Tavares murmured, his fingers drumming anxiously on the table. "Let us hope the humans are willing to accept our olive branch." Ava stood on the bridge of the Endeavour, her heart pounding with a mixture of trepidation and cautious optimism. The diplomatic envoy from the Galactic Council had arrived, and she now faced the daunting task of negotiating the terms of the humans' reintegration into the galactic community. "Captain, the Council's representatives are hailing us," Petrov reported, his voice steady. "They're requesting permission to come aboard and begin talks." Ava took a deep breath, steadying her nerves. "Very well, Lieutenant. Instruct them to proceed to the main hangar bay. I'll meet them there." As Ava made her way through the bustling corridors of the Endeavour, her crew watched her with a mix of respect and uncertainty. They had fought hard to defend their freedom, and now the path forward was unclear. Would the Galactic Council truly accept them as equals, Or were they merely being placated to avoid further conflict? In the hangar bay, Ava stood tall, her expression neutral, as the Council's delegation disembarked from their shuttle. Chancellor Tavares, flanked by several ambassadors, approached her with an outstretched hand. Captain Reyes, on behalf of the Galactic Council, I extend our sincere gratitude for your willingness to hear us out, Tavares said, his voice measured and diplomatic. Ava eyed the Chancellor warily but accepted the handshake. I appreciate your willingness to negotiate, Chancellor. However, I must be clear, the Endeavor and its crew will not simply submit to imprisonment or subjugation. We have come to reclaim our rightful place among the stars. Tavares nodded, his gaze unwavering. Understood, Captain. And that is precisely what we aim to offer you. The Galactic Council wishes to extend a formal invitation for the Endeavor and its people to rejoin our ranks as equal members. Ava's eyes widened with surprise, and she exchanged a quick glance with Petrov, whose expression mirrored her own. Equal members? After your fleet's attempt to imprison us? Yes, Captain, Tavares replied, his tone earnest. We have misjudged the capabilities and resilience of your people. It is clear that you are no longer the isolated, primitive colonists we once dismissed. You have grown, adapted, and developed technologies that far surpass our own. The Chancellor paused, his gaze sweeping across the hangar bay. The Galactic Council has come to the realization that we cannot afford to ignore or destroy the Endeavor and its crew. To do so would be to risk the very stability of our civilization. Therefore, we humbly request that you and your people join us as valued partners and contributors to the greater good of the galaxy. Ava listened, her expression guarded. And what assurances can you provide that the Council will not simply attempt to control or subjugate us once more? Tavares spread his hands in a gesture of openness. We offer you full autonomy, Captain Reyes. The Endeavor and its people will be granted a permanent seat on the Galactic Council, with all the rights and privileges that entails. Furthermore, we are prepared to provide reparations for the centuries of exile your people have endured. Ava felt a surge of hope, tempered by lingering skepticism. This is a remarkable offer, Chancellor. One that I will need to discuss with my crew. I trust you understand that we will require time to consider our options carefully. Tavares inclined his head. Of course, Captain. Take all the time you need. We are merely grateful that you have chosen to hear us out, rather than simply dismissing our overtures. As the Chancellor and his delegation departed, Ava turned to Petrov, her expression pensive. Well, old friend, it seems the Galactic Council has finally learned to respect the mettle of the exiled humans. Now the question is, are we prepared to forgive their past transgressions and embrace the future they're offering? Petrov chuckled, a glint of mischief in his eyes. After the beating we gave their fleet, I'd say we have them right where we want them, Captain. The real question is, what new opportunities will this alliance bring? Ava allowed herself a rare smile. I suppose there's only one way to find out.